If you are watching today's video, you might be asking yourself, do I have enough money to retire? Maybe you're getting close, maybe not. Let's find out today as we talk through a real life case example that you will be able to plug your own situation into to follow 4 simple steps to determine whether you have a green light, yellow light, or red light for retirement. Who am I? Andrew Toccaceli, Senior Vice President, W.A. Smith Financial. You can call me Taco. If you haven't seen our videos, we come to you each week with a lot of loaded educational material to help create financial peace of mind for you. Drop a comment below for a topic that you'd like to hear a little more about, and subscribe now. Let's jump to the board and get started on these 4 steps that you have to take to determine can you retire. All right, so the specific example that we're going to go through here today, keeping things very simple here, is we have Bob and Mary. Okay, Bob and Mary are 60 years old, and they have $1 million saved up that they want to retire at age 62. So we get this question all the time. Usually one of the first questions that somebody asks when they come in is, do I have enough? So Bob and Mary want to know, is that $1 million that they saved enough for them to retire? We're going to work through here today 4 steps. This is whether you have $250,000 saved, whether you have $1 million like Bob and Mary here, or you have $5 million, you have to go through these 4 steps. So moral of today's video here is it's really not all about the dollar amount. It's about the next 4 steps that I'm going to go through with you. So let's jump in. Step 1 is ultimately determining what is your income goal. We actually have a great video on this that complements here as well, called Are You Ready to Retire? Here's how to know. Check that video out as well. Make sure that you like and subscribe here, okay? Income goal is simply determining what do you want to spend in retirement. This is where we see too often not enough time going into it. Seems like the easiest part of all this, but I run into so many people who give a really low number at the end of the day. When we get to retirement, we don't want to spend any less. We don't want to cut back on what we're doing. So we need to think about this net number. What do I have to live in retirement to do all the things that I want to continue to do? So Bob and Mary went through this example, and what we've determined from Bob and Mary is that to continue to live exactly the same lifestyle as they're doing now while they're working, they need $6,800 a month. That is a net number that they need. So what we've done is determined that Bob and Mary need $8,000 when we incorporate tax liability into that. So more to come on taxes on this, but $8,000 per month is what Bob and Mary need to sustain their lifestyle. Now we move on. Step 2, and I have resources written here. Resources is simply what income do you have coming in retirement? In Bob and Mary's example that we have here, they both have Social Security that will begin, in this example for simplicity, at age 62. Now, more planning that can go into this on when to take Social Security. We're going to keep it simple here today. Bob and Mary are both going to take Social Security at age 62, and they also have a pension from their employer that begins at retirement as well. When we put all of these resources together, we have $5,000 of what I would call reliable, predictable income that is coming in from Social Security and pension. Now, we can move on to step 3. Now, step 2, you can think about like rental income and some other things that you may have coming in. So goal here is that you're able to take your situation, and I want you to start inputting your actual scenario into this to determine, do you have enough money? So If you got other resources outside of Social Security or pension, make sure you include those as well. Step 3 is the simple math between what's that gap? What do I need to live off of? What do I have coming in? Bob and Mary have a $3,000 per month shortfall that they now need to generate from that $1 million of investable assets that they have. So as I mentioned at the beginning, Bob and Mary have accumulated $1 million. They have 2 years before they want to retire. So in our example here today, we're going to assume they're putting money into 401k and doing some savings in that 2-year period as well. So under resources, I'm going to say they have 1.1 million now as they fast forward to retirement. That's the assumption being made. So we need $3,000 per month, just $36,000 a year from the $1.1 million. We're going to move on to step 4 here. So that is, what's the withdrawal rate? What's that percentage that I need to take, that Bob and Mary needs to take on their investments to hit that gap? We're going to look at 36,000 divided by our 1.1 million, which is ultimately a 3.3% withdrawal rate. So now we can stop. This is the first 4 steps that you have to look at, and we kind of circle this number, and we talk really green light, yellow light, red light on whether we can answer this question, do you have enough money? Many of you have probably heard about the 4% rule, and the 4% rule is ultimately a guide. Really just states that if you have to take less than 4% of your money, that you're in pretty good shape to be able to generate the income stream for the rest of your life without running out of money. Now, I would tell Bob and Mary here, they have a yellow light. They have a yellow light because that is a good withdrawal rate. We want to see them under that 4% as I mentioned here. But there's a lot more that goes into this question that sometimes gets overlooked. This goes back to the beginning where I said it's not about the dollar amount per se. It's really about the 4 things we just talked about. But then it's also about, really, I'm going to talk about 5 key risks that can take Bob and Mary from yellow light back to a red light. That wouldn't be good, right? So 5 things that are going to generate risk in this plan, even though they have what I would say enough assets right now. Number 1, and it starts really at the income need, it's inflation. Bob and Mary determine they need $6,800 a month or $8,000 gross per month. However, that's today. Maybe 2 years from now, it's $10,000 a month because of inflation. Or maybe 10 years from now, when they're in the middle of retirement, it's $15,000 a month. That's a risk that has to be built into a comprehensive plan is, if we're not taking inflation into consideration, Bob and Mary can go from yellow light to red light. And the bad thing there is that can happen after retirement. The last thing that you want is to get the green light, go forward, your advisor says, oh yeah, you're under 4%, we're just going to take systematic distributions, you don't have to worry about anything. And 10 years from now, your plan's kind of failing, and you either have to cut back on what you're spending, or we look at going back to work as a worst case. So risk 1 is inflation. Risk 2 is sequence of return risk. Bob and Mary have everything together here. However, we made an assumption that Bob and Mary went from $1 million to $1.1 million in that 2-year period. What if the opposite happens? What if they retire into a recessionary period or a bear market where rather than having 1.1 million, they are retiring at age 62, but their portfolio took a big hit. They see a 30% decline in their investable assets. They're down to maybe 700,000 instead of $1.1 million. Well, the risk here now is Bob and Mary need $36,000, not 3.3%. So what is $36,000 now on $700,000? That withdrawal rate's now over 5%. That's going to take you back from yellow light to red light if you don't plan for that. So sequence of return is ultimately you don't know exactly what you're going to retire into from the economy, from the market, unless you do some planning first. Risk number 3 is what I'm going to call taxes. This is a key component to a financial plan. Is if Bob and Mary failed up here up front to account for taxes, and their investable asset, that net worth of $1 million is all pre-tax money, do Bob and Mary really have $1 million? Not really, because there's some tax liability on that money over time. So if they're not already accounting for tax and you're running the scenario through just using a net number but not understanding that you have to incorporate the tax liability into this, that could kind of inflate this number, make it not very realistic. And all of a sudden you get into retirement and the taxes and the tax consequence, has a major impact on you. So tax planning, major risk that can take you from yellow light back to a red light. 4, one of the biggest ones, Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, is your health. Catastrophic illness. You could have the perfect plan in place, everything could be going well, but if you're not being proactive or having comprehensive planning around your health, you could spend these dollars down a lot faster if you or a loved one needs some sort of long-term care or needs, which can jeopardize your overall plan. Again, take you from a yellow light to a red light. Lastly, number 5 is what I'll call legacy. A lot of times, and in Bob and Mary's situation here, is not only do they want to provide income stream for themselves to make sure that they're living their lifestyle, they want to make sure that there's money left behind for their heirs as well. The risk on the legacy side may not really impact Bob and Mary, but it can certainly impact, if things aren't set up properly, their heirs and how the assets are passing on and if they're doing exactly what Bob and Mary want to do there. So those are 5 key areas that, when we look at someone's situation, that's our process, is to make sure that we're taking care of those 5 components, because really steps 1 through 4 could look really good, but a comprehensive plan is going to address those 5 risks that come along to take you from that yellow to green. So last but not least, let's take a look at how we can go from yellow light to green light. Stay tuned. All right, so as you can see, there's a lot of risks that you face that can take you from a yellow light to a red light. Goal here is to get you from yellow light to green light. How do we do that? Very important that you take a look at the 5 key planning areas. So you can put your situation into the 4 steps that we talked about, but a comprehensive plan is also going to address inflation risk, sequence of return risk, tax planning, healthcare or catastrophic illness, and your legacy. If you need help with this, if this is something you want to take a step further, check out our Ascend 360 process. The link is in the description. If you're not quite ready to do that, make sure you check out the next video, The Keys to Retiring Confidently. Until next time, see you soon.